Hello friends, this talk is about different ways that area meetings can work together. I hope you'll find ideas here you can use. They are responses to the situation that many Quaker area meetings find themselves in, as I described in the fundamentals topic in this series, where there are too many things to do and not enough people to do them, and where we need to find new ways and new light to give space for the spirit. I'm Jonathan Carmichael. I'm a Quaker from Watford Meeting in Hertfordshire in the east of England, and I'm Britain Uni Meeting's Simpler Meetings project manager, collecting and sharing ways that may be helpful. For the first part of this talk, I'm going to use some little sketches, and here they are. Imagine this is two area meetings. So each of these stick people is an area meeting, and you can see there that one of them seems to be having a quite happy time, and the other one is not so happy. It's not going so well for them, and they seem to be looking in different directions. They're not really relating to one another, and that's often how it can be. In this one, they are talking to one another. People are sharing ideas, they're thinking about solutions together. Maybe they have some buddies between one role holders in one area and with the other. And they are cooperating and getting more out of what they're able to do. Here's going another step a little bit further. These two are doing something together. They're undertaking something together. It might be that they do some of their learning sessions together. They might be doing some shared witness, or they might have some role holders that are held in common. They might have a registering officer who's the same for both area meetings, or something to do with safeguarding, those kinds of things. So that's another extent to which area meetings could be working together. This one is of the area meeting on the right, not proposing marriage, but as it looks down on one knee, but offering something to the other. So this is perhaps where let's say the one on the right has developed a good training or a learning or workshop, and they say, do you know what, rather than you working out how to run one in your area meeting, we'll come and run the same thing for you. Or it might be, we've got a part-time administrator who works a few hours a week for us. Why don't we extend their hours and they could work and be administrator for you as well? That kind of idea whereby working together, you only need to do some of the task once, and it could be actually both people can benefit. Here's another version where the two area meetings have the same supplier, the same organization. The person with the peak cap in this diagram is somebody who's offering something to both area meetings together. So you might be using the same tradespeople to work on your buildings, or a property management organization that works with both of your organizations, or you might use some of the same trainers, or that kind of thing. So it's another way in which you could share things. This one is a little bit more structural. It's not the one on the left giving a cake to the one on the right. This is where you might have an area meeting where one of the local meetings moves from one area to the other. Some of our areas have a slightly unusual structure, very perhaps long and thin, or something sticking out to one side. And actually, one local meeting might be much better placed with their neighbours, where they've got much more in common geographically. So that's another way in which two area meetings could say, this would be a better solution for everybody if this meeting moved across. And there are several of those happening at the moment. Here's an example where the bit in the middle between them is a shared property trust. Quite a few areas around the country have a property trust that looks after some of their buildings, or perhaps all of their buildings. In London, there is a common property trust across 7 area meetings. It's called London Quakers Property Trust, and it's been there for hundreds of years in effect. But in other parts of the country, there are some odds and ends where perhaps some of the buildings in one area are in a trust and there's another trust over here. Perhaps putting the two together, you could get some economies of scale and run things in the same way by incorporation. That's just another way of looking at things. But sometimes area meetings face the situation where they're concluding that we can't continue as a single area meeting. We've tried lots of other things. We can see that in the future we need to change our structures. What else could we use? Well, one way is to dissolve the area meeting altogether and pass outwards to the side the local meetings into the neighbouring area meetings. In some ways that is one of the most simple things to do, in that it reduces the number of organisations, and the ones you already have can continue with the same structures that they're used to. Of course, there's a bit of getting used to because area meetings work in different ways, and so the new ones moving into those areas would have to adjust a bit. But structurally, it's one of the most straightforward things one could do. But it's by far the only one. This one is this is not where somebody's used a bicycle pump to expand everything. This is two areas or more areas coming together to form a simple, straightforward merger. All the parts of the structure become a bit bigger. There's a bit more in the legs, there's a bit more in the body, there's a bit more in the head. That too can be quite a straightforward structure, but one needs to take quite a bit of time and preparation to make that work well. What else do we have? This is a different one. This is the two area meetings remaining as they are, so the black one and the red one, but appointing some people in common to their respective trustee bodies in this example. So the black one on the left has three of their trustees from the black area meeting and 3 from the red area meeting, and vice versa on the other side. That allows them to share their expertise. And it might be very useful in the short term if the area meeting's got to the stage where we just can't find the trustees and yet we have to be able to make some decisions. You could import some people from another area meeting on a sort of more temporary basis, maybe 6 months or a year, or you could go on this basis on a medium term, and those trustee bodies could meet back to back on the same day, or you could also merge the way that they operate so that they're considering both areas at the same time. That's probably not a long-term solution. Probably you wouldn't use it for 10 years, but it might be one to bear in mind. And here is another one which I'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute. This is 4 area meetings, still maintaining many of their same functions, but rather than having 4 separate charities, there is one all around the 4 of them. So they have a single trustee body, that's that blob I've drawn in the middle there, and there's a relationship between that trustee body and all 4 of the areas, and a lot of those central things can happen in common. Now I want to explain about a real example of this happening in Wales and the Marches. Simerdom Line is a committee taking forward an idea. Simerdom Line means moving forwards in Welsh. And I'm using an explanation that Leslie Richards, the clerk of that committee, gave in a session I was running a little while ago. In Wales, you have 4 area meetings, 3 entirely in Wales, and the Southern Marches area meeting, which is partly in Wales and partly in England. And there is Meeting of Friends in Wales, a further charity. And the plan is to put all of those 5 charities together. It's like having one glove looking after the whole hand, but you've still got the 4 fingers, the area meetings, and the thumb, Meeting of Friends in Wales, each doing their things separately, but also working together. And the glove of the common charity holds them together and protects them all. If you look in Quaker Faith and Practice 402, it describes what an area meeting has to do. There are basically 3 paragraphs, and the first 2 paragraphs are things like membership and spiritual growth and outreach and witness, and all the things that are the reasons why you and I joined Friends in the first place. The third paragraph is about things that you might call trustee stuff. It's the stuff that needs to happen in order that all the other stuff in the first two paragraphs can carry on. So the thinking is that the area meetings continue doing the stuff in the first two paragraphs, but we combine efforts on the stuff in the third paragraph to keep things going. So that the overall proportion of Quaker time that's put into running the show is rather smaller, and so you get a bigger proportion of time doing the stuff you might really want to do and you might feel is actually what really matters. But you can't do what really matters unless you've got the housekeeping stuff done as well. This approach in principle has been agreed in 2020 by the 4 area meetings and the Meeting of Friends in Wales as a direction of travel. They haven't signed on the dotted line and said, we're definitely going to do this, because we haven't been able to show them exactly what they're signing up to. But they're agreed it's the direction of travel. And the aim is to have everything in place over the next 3 years, ready for the next triennium of appointments. Here's a sketch map. Here are the 4 area meetings in Wales in different colours. The gold line around the outside will be the boundary of the single charity. But the problem, in a way, is that the wavy black line is the boundary between Wales and England. So the national boundary and the Quaker boundaries don't quite match, which causes all kinds of little problems. Like Meeting of Friends in Wales is for people who live in Wales, which doesn't include everybody in the whole of the charity, the people who are living in England. If you were thinking about this for Scotland, for example, you wouldn't have this boundary issue. Now, the first step in 2021 is that in the interim, the 4 area meetings are sharing trustees. Here's a diagram. I hope that demonstrates the sharing of trustees. So the trustees for North Wales are made up of 3 from North Wales, the ones at the top, and 1 from Mid Wales, and 1 from South Wales, and 1 from the Southern Marches. Yeah, it's B in this diagram because they'd already used up S and M, and they couldn't use that for Southern Marches. And it's the same for Mid Wales, 3 from Wales, and 1 from each of the other 3. So you can see there are 12 friends in total who are being trustees, who are between them are being trustees for all the 4 areas. And there are a series of pairs who will be at the same meetings. Between them, they know what's happening across Wales and the Marches. And it builds that sense of being together. I think it's quite an interesting experience and sort of hands-on on the job training that you couldn't get in any other way by going on a course or something like that. They're learning by doing. Sometimes 1 or 2 will be thinking during the course of the next few years, well, this other area meeting does seem to take a long time to do this particular thing, or sometimes think, now that's a neat idea, we could do that. So there's a sharing of good practice as they're going along. In May 2021, as I'm talking now, the trustees have already been doing this for 5 months. They're already beginning to be slightly closer together in how they're operating. And Zoom means that they can operate all sorts of meetings without having to travel. There are various subgroups working on things. There's a finance group with the treasurers from the 5 charities, amongst others, and they're talking about a common accounting system and insurance, and they're going to approach utility companies and see if they can get a joint quote, because it saves them some money as well. There's a policies group and a property group, and there's a documentation group. And the aim is to have all of this ready in time for 2024. Now, how did this happen? Well, the various area meetings, the 4 of them, all found that they had problems, particularly the nominations committees were having problems finding people to serve. And because it's Wales, there's Meeting of Friends in Wales, where they do already talk to each other. So Meeting of Friends in Wales facilitated bringing together this Symudham Line working group. The group has 2 members from each of the 5 charities. And they asked Leslie Richards, who lives outside of all 4, as an outsider, to be a clerk of the group. This has meant that all the charities were on the same sort of standing in that committee. They've already concluded that what they're going to end up with won't be quite as few roles as perhaps they thought at the beginning, but those roles will have changed and they'll be easier, and they'll be more about keeping people in communication with one another rather than doing a lot of stuff. Leslie explained that she gets a sense that friends are coming together across Wales and the Marches more than they used to, even though they already had meeting of friends in Wales. Symondham Line means, after all, moving forward. If you want to find documents about this initiative, they're on the Britain Yearly Meetings, Simpler Meetings webpage, quaker.org.uk/simpler. There are also 2 fun videos there explaining the origins and how the sharing of trustees will work in the interim. Meanwhile, there are developments happening in London too, proposing a single charity encompassing all 7 area meetings in London, which will continue, but replacing the 7 area meeting charities. And they'll continue to have London Quakers Property Trust holding the properties across London, pooling the property funds, as has been the case in London for hundreds of years. These proposals are undergoing a consultation with the 7 area meetings, and we will see how things develop. Again, you can find their document on the Simpler Meetings webpage as well. So there you are, 2 examples of structural changes which people are hoping will enable their area meetings to work together more effectively. But I'll remind you that when I started this talk with a whole range of other ways of working together, the most basic which is talking with people from other areas about how they do things, through working on particular topics together, sharing some roles, and some other options for structural changes like a straight merger or some local meetings moving to a different area. As has been the theme of the Simpler Meetings series, there are lots of possibilities and lots of permission to release time and energy for other aspects of Quaker life together, and for the spirit to be heard and acted upon in new ways. I hope you'll take these possibilities and discuss them with friends in your meetings. Thank you, friends.